People blame fat for weight gain, but biology tells a stranger story today. The real enemy is not fat alone, it is energy surplus over time. Calories matter, yet the source of calories changes how your body responds daily. Dietary fat can fuel you, protect you, and reduce hunger between meals. When people say fat makes you fat, they confuse cause and context entirely. That phrase sounds simple, but human metabolism is never simple in practice either. Fat is a nutrient, not a moral failure, and not a poison either. Your body stores extra energy from any source, including sugar, starch, and fat. The old slogan ignores hormones, appetite, and the quality of your food choices. To understand the myth, we must separate language from biology carefully and patiently. Words can mislead when a sentence sounds scientific, but hides a shortcut neatly. Fat in food does not automatically become body fat instantly in practice today. Your liver, muscles, and hormones decide how incoming energy is handled today. Insulin rises after meals, but different meals create very different hormone responses overall. Highly refined carbohydrates can drive stronger fat storage signals than fat, especially today. That is why two meals with equal calories can behave differently in practice. One meal may leave you satisfied, another may leave you ravenous instead. Processed, low-fat products often replace fat with sugar and starch instead. Consumers think they are choosing health, yet the label hides the trap perfectly. This confusion began long before modern nutrition labels and influencer advice arrived online. In the 1950s, researchers were hunting for a simple explanation of obesity. They saw heart disease rising and searched for a dietary villain quickly. Saturated fat became an easy target because it was visible and familiar. Meat, butter, and eggs looked suspicious, while sugar escaped attention entirely too. Industry, politics, and public fear all pushed the same message relentlessly for decades. The resulting story felt clear: eat less fat, get healthier, stay thin. Governments promoted low-fat advice, and companies rushed to follow everywhere quickly. Food manufacturers removed fat, then filled products with sweetness and fillers instead. Low-fat cookies sounded virtuous, but they often delivered more sugar instead. People were told to fear fat, not question ultra-processed replacements instead. Over time, that advice shaped school lunches, supermarkets, and dinner plates for decades. It also trained millions to feel guilty about olive oil, nuts, avocado. Yet traditional diets around the world used fat without widespread obesity problems historically. That fact alone should make us question the simple blame game narrative. The problem was never fat by itself, it was the whole pattern. When we remove fat from context, we create a dangerous half-truth. Science does not support the slogan. It supports metabolic nuance and balance. Next, we will examine how food fear replaced nutrition wisdom across America. Once you see the trap, the myth loses its power immediately after that. The origin story matters because bad advice can live for generations afterward. Dietary fat enters digestion slowly, then travels into intestinal transport particles' first system. Those particles deliver fat to cells, where it supports stable, usable energy daily. Fat does not require a massive insulin surge to enter metabolism here today. Instead, the body packages it carefully and spends it efficiently afterward there too. Refined sugar acts fast, flooding blood glucose and demanding rapid insulin release dramatically. That insulin rush tells cells to absorb fuel and store excess quickly directly. When insulin stays high, fat release from storage gets temporarily blocked too there. This is why sugary meals can encourage fat accumulation over time easily, repeatedly. Fat itself is not the switch flipping your body into storage mode either. Insulin is the traffic cop, deciding whether fuel flows or pauses here sometimes. After a fat-rich meal, hunger often drops and energy feels steady overall. After a sugar-heavy meal, cravings can return quickly and strongly again soon. That difference matters more than the old fear of dietary fat alone still. Your liver can even turn fat into ketones for efficient fuel later on. Ketones help many tissues run without constant glucose dependence or swings daily here. That is metabolic flexibility, using the right fuel at the right time cleanly. Meanwhile, excess sugar can overwhelm storage pathways and raise triglycerides in blood circulation. Those triglycerides may circulate, then settle as body fat later more easily overall. The problem is not natural fat. It is repeated glucose overload instead immediately. Process every meal like a chemistry lesson, not a moral courtroom today instead. Energy comes first, and storage follows only when intake exceeds need repeatedly. Fat provides dense calories, but it does not force constant secretion here. Sugar repeatedly asks for insulin, and insulin repeatedly asks for storage signals. That loop is why processed snacks can be so deceptive overall, too. They taste light, yet behave like sugar delivery systems inside your body. Whole foods containing fat look calmer on the metabolic dashboard today overall. You see smoother blood sugar, gentler insulin, and longer satiety afterward usually. That is why avocado feels different from a sugary pastry physiologically today. One supports balance, the other pushes storage, hunger, and fatigue faster strongly. This is the core scientific correction the old myth ignored for decades. Dietary fat can be burned, stored, or converted depending on demand itself. The body is a regulation system, not a simple calculator only here. High demand burns energy. Low demand keeps it stored for later instead. Insulin helps decide that balance, and sugar keeps it stuck often there. Fat is often blamed because it is memorable, visible, and unfairly simple. Science asks harder questions about what meals spike insulin, appetite, and storage. The answers point toward sugar, refined starch, and processed foods repeatedly instead. So dietary fat is not the villain. Distorted metabolism is the culprit. In the next section, we will trace how insulin resistance develops step. Then the body begins storing energy more easily than it burns today. By the 1970s, fat fear had become marketing gold for companies everywhere. Supermarkets filled with lime green labels promising health, lightness, and guilt-free eating. But removing fat created a flavor problem, so manufacturers added sugar instead. That swap changed everything, because sugar was cheap, addictive, and highly profitable. Low-fat yogurt looked innocent, yet it often carried dessert-level sweetness in cups daily. Breakfast cereal lost fat, then gained bright crimson sweetness and processed crunch daily. Snack bars advertised control, while blood sugar quietly climbed after each bite consistently. Families believed they were choosing better, but hunger returned much faster afterward overall. Without fat, meals became less satisfying and more likely to trigger overeating eventually. Manufacturers added fillers, starches, and syrups to restore texture, bulk, and taste daily. Those ingredients raised glycemic load, and the body answered with insulin spikes dramatically. Insulin told the body to store excess energy, not burn it immediately now. That storage signal repeated every day, especially with constant snacking throughout days everywhere. Over time, bodies adapted to the new food environment in damaging ways slowly. Fatigue followed sugar crashes, and people reached for another packaged snack quickly daily. The cycle looked harmless, but it trained appetite toward larger intake patterns everywhere. Low-fat marketing also made consumers suspicious of naturally rich foods like butter constantly. Butter looked dangerous, while sugar quietly became the accepted replacement in recipes instead. The result was a cultural blind spot, not a nutritional victory completely. People reduced one nutrient, then increased processed calories without noticing the damage quietly. Food labels emphasized grams of fat, hiding teaspoons of added sugar completely often. Lime green packaging became a mask for ultra-processed, hyper-palatable products everywhere today. Children grew up seeing these products as normal, everyday foods, sadly enough daily. Adults ate them at work, at home, and even after dinner tonight. Each serving delivered a spike, a crash, and renewed craving again quickly. That pattern slowly pushed insulin resistance higher across populations for years overall. Insulin resistance makes cells less responsive, so the body compensates more easily. More insulin means more storage pressure and less fat release overall from cells. More storage pressure means easier weight gain from ordinary meals each day easily. Meanwhile, energy levels dropped, and people felt hungry again much sooner daily. So the low-fat era did not solve obesity. It amplified it instead. It taught the market to engineer foods around sweetness, not satiety daily. It taught consumers to fear butter and praise industrial substitutes instead everywhere. It taught public health to focus on fat grams instead of quality. Once sugar entered everything, the obesity curve began climbing relentlessly upward faster. The timeline is clear. Low-fat advice met processed food profit perfectly, sadly enough. And millions paid for that mistake with fatigue, cravings, and weight gain directly. Next, we will unpack how insulin resistance becomes a metabolic trap today. Sugar-soaked products promised pleasure, then delivered fatigue, cravings, and another purchase. The industry called that progress, while waistlines, energy, and health suffered collectively. Fat is not optional. Every human cell depends on it for survival daily. Your brain uses fat to build insulation, membranes, and rapid communication everywhere today. Nearly 60% of the brain is fat, especially in protective myelin sheaths. That myelin helps signals travel quickly, cleanly, and without constant friction daily smoothly. Without enough fat, nerves cannot perform at their best for long periods easily. Cell membranes themselves are built from lipids, shaping what enters and exits. That means fat is part of the gatekeeping system for every cell inside carefully. Hormones also rely on fat because they coordinate hunger, stress, and reproduction. When fat intake is too low, hormones can become erratic and noisy fast. That can mean low energy, mood swings, and poor recovery after exercise much. Cholesterol is not just a villain, it is raw material for hormones too. Your body uses it to make estrogen, testosterone, and cortisol carefully daily. Balanced fat intake supports those hormone pathways without dramatic metabolic chaos later well. This is why extreme low-fat diets often leave people cold and tired inside. The body is not asking for fear, it is asking for building blocks. Fat also carries vitamins A, D, E, and K into tissues safely. Those vitamins help vision, immunity, clotting, and antioxidant defense every single day too. Remove fat completely and you undermine those systems at the same time daily. Healthy fats also reduce inflammation when they replace refined, damaged calories properly. That is a different story from excess junk food pretending to be light overall. A strong brain, stable hormones, and flexible membranes all need fat daily alone. So the question is not whether fat is useful, but which fats. Natural fats from whole foods tend to support structure and signaling best. Industrial trans fats and oxidized oils, by contrast, can damage membranes seriously. The lesson is balance, quality, and context, not blind fear of fat. Every cell needs a lipid coat to function with precision and resilience. That coat keeps communication flowing and protects against environmental stress better overall. When the body has enough fat, it can repair, signal, and adapt well. When it does not, the system becomes brittle and less efficient fast. That is biology, not ideology, and the data keeps saying so clearly. Fat is part of the architecture like wiring, scaffolding, and insulation itself. Take it away and the building still stands, but poorly over time. Take it away from humans, and health problems follow quickly afterward often. That is why real nutrition begins with respect for essential fats always. The brain, the hormones, and the cells all vote for them loudly. Not because fat is magical, but because it is biologically necessary here. Once you see that, the old fear starts to collapse fast fully. Next, we will connect these fats to practical food choices for every day. The message is simple. Nourish the system that keeps you alive today absolutely. Fat is not the enemy of life, it is part of it. Dietary fat helps you feel full because digestion slows down satisfaction signals naturally. That fullness can reduce snacking, overeating, and hunting for the next meal. Protein helps too, but fat often delivers longer-lasting satiety between meals better overall. That is why balanced meals beat low-fat, sugary snacks almost every time. When fat is paired with fiber, the meal becomes calmer and more satisfying. That calmer response means fewer cravings and less impulsive eating later today. Meanwhile, sugar alone can create a quick rise, then a quick crash cycle. After the crash, the brain asks for more food immediately again soon. Fat helps break that cycle by smoothing energy and stabilizing appetite naturally better. Eat real food, and the body usually knows what to do best naturally. Avocado, olive oil, nuts, seeds, eggs, and fish are practical examples here. They bring fat plus nutrients instead of empty calories and urgency afterward. Choose meals with color, protein, fiber, and a modest amount of fat daily. That combination supports stable glucose, fewer cravings, and better mood overall, too. You do not need fear butter when the rest of your diet improves today. What matters is whether you are eating mostly whole, minimally processed foods. That is where fat behaves like nourishment, not a threat to health at. It is also where calories stop feeling like an enemy daily anymore. The goal is not a zero-fat life. It is a smarter pattern instead. That pattern respects hunger, supports energy, and fits real human biology well. When you eat enough fat, meals can finally feel finished naturally again. That sense of finish helps people stay consistent without constant willpower battles. Consistency matters far more than perfect rules posted on social media daily. A livable plan beats a dramatic plan that collapses by Friday night. So start with one change. Build breakfast around protein and fat first. Then watch your cravings, energy, and mood tell the truth clearly soon. Most people notice less grazing and more stable focus within days, usually. That is not magic. It is physiology finally working properly again here today. Your body prefers balance, not deprivation, and definitely not confusion every day either. Give it the building blocks, and it usually responds with resilience back quickly. Give it quality fat, and satiety becomes one of your strongest allies again. That is how eating right becomes sustainable instead of punishing for life. And that is the exact opposite of what the old myth predicted there. The truth is simple. Fat can help you eat less, not more overall, truly. It can protect your metabolism when it comes from real foods consistently. So choose the foods that make you feel steady, not starved afterward. Choose fat, fiber, protein, and patience, and your body will thank you later. The science is clear, and the message should feel empowering now too. You are not broken. You were given incomplete advice for decades instead. Now you can eat with confidence, fullness, and real biological wisdom again daily.